Remember when this sentiment for Game Pass used to permeate the airwaves? Now, this is one that is somewhat close to some of the other arguments that you've heard. The only problem is this particular argument and its other framing strategies never passed the litmus test. And we're going to see it again. This user writes, and this is now in the phase of Xbox launching ginormous numbers of games on Game Pass. When Game Pass didn't have this kind of cadence, this same argument was made. And look at it right here. This person says, I'd say the biggest problem with Game Pass is that it incentivizes, in parentheses, disincentivizes, developers to design with the idea in mind that sales don't matter. There's a reason all Microsoft published developers just churn out Slop now. Now, I heard this argument as far back as the beginning of last year, the end of 2023, when I started talking about Game Pass on the Video Game Fight School channel. And it came from PlayStation fanboys who were very much, determined to malign whatever Game Pass was doing at the time. What that particular claim had to face was the fact that there are third-party games on Game Pass that come to Game Pass after the fact. Whether or not they sell well or don't sell well, if they're a good fit for Game Pass, if they negotiate well for Game Pass, they've shown up on Game Pass. Would this person ever look at a game like Metaphor Refantasio and say, it's slop? No, this is just all kinds of cloud dusting of nonsense being put out here, in a sense, masking itself as an argument. The second one said, there's a reason all Microsoft published developers just churn out Slop now. What's funny is, for years, the games that existed on Game Pass, right? Or some of the games that existed on Game Pass are now making their way to PlayStation. And these games are starting to sell very well when they arrive there. If you go back and look at Forza Horizon, which is a game that has, for the longest time, been one of the staples of Game Pass since launch because it's an Xbox game, you'll realize that the game, having launched on PlayStation, has stayed on the top seller list for a very long time. This is just one of those things where you could be making an argument and building blocks, but sometimes why do PlayStation fanboys use, like, say, a mine to build this building? They'll be building the foundation of their argument. Then they'll be, instead of taking brick and mortar, they will just take a mine and, basically slap it where a brick should go. When the whole thing is built up and something comes like a little bit of a breeze to this particular structure, it basically lets go of the, mine's pressure system, and wha-bam, the entire argument collapses. It's so weird and wild that this is a consistent, pattern that you see. Another crazy thing is we've also had third-party games from PlayStation's own studios on Game Pass, such as the legendary, the PlayStation ported, the MLB published MLB The Show. This particular set of arguments can never pass this test. And so when these folk make this argument, I just come and I just sit down here and say, thanks so much for the video. Because there's a reason I can actually put out these many videos every single day, because some of the things that are said out here are just plain absurd. Some of them are borderline absurd, but some of them, they really do fascinate me in that regard. Another crazy thing is, if you even look at the more recent titles that are being published from Microsoft's gaming studios overall, whether it be Bethesda, whether it be whatever, the ones that have made their way to PlayStation seem also to be doing very well. I've noticed the theme and a trend. When they don't go to PlayStation and don't get that 80-something Metacritic score on the PlayStation side, they're slop and they're bad. But when they go to PlayStation and get their 80-something Metacritic scores, then they're just okay or good. Is this not some kind of a, conspiracy that we've been pointing to all this while? I mean, think about it. And remember, Redfall, for all its faults, never made its way to PlayStation, right? So we couldn't even really get a sense of what the PlayStation users thought. Most of them sat down and hurled rocks like they did for Starfield, which also did not go to PlayStation. So was the same situation with Avowed and South of Midnight. These games have not gone to PlayStation yet. I wonder how PlayStation gamers not those people who are sitting on the internet talking a bunch of nonsense, would think about these games. Because you see, the people who want to play Twitter and who want to talk about all of the different little things that's wrong with Game Pass and the developers and blah, 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 can talk all they want, but they have to face one of two realities. Either their opinions, which can't follow logical reasoning, is a bunch of junk, or the gamers who are buying these so-called Xbox slop when they arrive on PlayStation have poor judgment and don't know how to basically, select good games to play. It's one or the other. Because I cannot emphasize enough how this has become a problem at the end of the day with people coming up with these opinions and putting them out here, making it seem like they have something viable to say. What's even funny too is this particular argument, and I'm pointing fingers at some PlayStation fanboys or whatever. I've also heard it from people who play on PC and people who play on Xbox as well. It's not relegated to some fandom. Now, here's the thing that you're not going to hear me say. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything that comes out on Game Pass is a banger or is a massive hit. All I do is just watch gamer behavior. What games are gamers actually looking forward to? Are these games on Game Pass? Well, the answer is yes. Then I guess you leave it up to the gamers themselves to judge. And if we go back to this PlayStation thread, on Reddit, this PlayStation Plus, little thread or whatever it is, you're going to see that players and gamers were looking forward to these games that were on Game Pass. Now, the games are available on their ecosystem, the third-party one, Expedition 33, the Oblivion Remaster, that is an Xbox game, as well as the Doom Dark Ages. They have them all on their platform. But here's the thing. They're not satisfied because Game Pass is basically serving the Xbox community while they have to pony up, dozens of dollars to play these same games. Forza Horizon 5 has gone on sale. Xbox is now basically raking in the money machine. 15,000 ratings. This game is basically covering for the other games that have not necessarily kicked off very heavily here. These same people, would they judge Indiana Jones fairly? When I watched a YouTuber who had a big video about Game Pass slop, the problem that this guy cited was he had not played Indiana Jones. He talked about in the beginning of his video how he enjoyed Game Pass when he wanted to save a little bit of money, but then saved up money and then bought a PlayStation 5, only for him to unsubscribe from Game Pass, talk about how Game Pass was bringing out slop like Avowed, which he never said if he had played, but he said Indiana Jones, well, maybe it's a good game, but I haven't played it yet. But he had a big opinion talking about the servings in terms of the games on the platform. This Game Pass thing, I'm happy that it's unnerving a lot of what the industry has, come to accept at the end of the day. Premium games for a discardable fee, just like Netflix, but in this case, with a much different slant where you can buy these same games in majority of the cases, if not 99.99999. I think there's one game, this Retro Classics game, apparently I found out that you can't buy it. Third-party developers enjoy it. They can build a fan base it's like they get paid to build a fan base. That's Game Pass for developers. This is something that I think this is really irking everybody else. The big dogs are fretting underneath their, little whatevers because small devs now have a chance to get out there and put their games. Bro, the people that did Balatro, Expedition 33, Blueprints, they now have a following because their game has been exposed to people on this platform. Yo, let's keep talking about this because this is very good to see how the change in the industry is pretty much exposing how the old guard seemingly has forgotten that value proposition is the one thing that gaming has lacked in at least the last 10 years. They've basically tried their best to nickel and dime us and continue to want to try their best to do it. Now that gamers have decided we're going to play these free-to-play games, which also nickel and dime you in terms of skins and microtransactions, and somebody comes out and says, well, if everyone's trying to nickel and dime you, I might as well get mine by giving you value. All of them have lost their minds because the programming seems to be really strong. Interesting. Can't wait for PlayStation subscription service to step it up. That's when everyone's probably going to go ahead and calm down because apparently the zeitgeist needs PlayStation to do it for it to be approved. What a mess. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.